Hi again, everybody. This is a continuation of the previous podcast that you saw on Bell Hooks' All About Love, New Visions, her book about love, and I wanted to focus specifically on chapter 9, in which Bell Hooks talks about her own experiences with love, but also what are the key ingredients to real love. So she says that love allows us to enter paradise, and this is the very first sentence of the chapter. So she's using a biblical metaphor, and she says that some people are never able to walk through the gates of paradise because they have been too wounded previously. And then she proceeds to talking about her own relationships and why these relationships didn't work. And as she does throughout the whole book, she is constantly supporting her ideas with specific references. So she keeps quoting other thinkers, other writers, and in this particular chapter, she quotes a psychologist who has written about the Peter Pan syndrome to talk about her previous partner. Bell Hooks also explains in this chapter that the practice of love takes time. And she explains that one has to be patient. And then as she does throughout the entire book, she starts with that key sentence and she explains what she means by that. So as you're working on your research papers, maybe you could, in fact, be inspired by the way Hooks structures her own paragraphs, and she starts with a strong idea, a strong topic sentence, and then she supports it with different sources from different fields, and she talks about that in the interview I wanted you to watch on the show Speaking Freely. She says that in fact her books bring in so many different ideas from so many different fields, and this particular book is an example of that. So she's a critic, but she writes an entire book about love in the American culture, for instance. And in that book she quotes not just important American thinkers like Martin Luther King, for instance, when he writes about peace and talks about peace, but she also she quotes psychologists. So that chapter 9 is an example of that. She also says in chapter 9, to know love, we must surrender our attachment to sexist thinking in whatever form it takes in our lives. And so she keeps giving us different ingredients to be able to love. And in fact, the actual title of the chapter is Mutuality, the Heart of Love. So mutuality is also an important idea. And she illustrates it by talking about generosity. So she says generous sharing of all resources is one concrete way to express love. So that's another key idea of the chapter. So what I want you to do, everybody, is I want you to think about these different key ideas. I want you to find other ideas which seem particularly meaningful in the chapter, and I also want you to show how Hooks supports each idea that she introduces to her readers in the chapter. And I also want you to tell me whether you agree or disagree with her. Bell Hooks also says in another chapter, for instance, that it is not because one enters a romantic relationship that one should let go of one's friendships. But then a counter-argument, for instance, to this idea could be that sometimes friends can be jealous of a new relationship, and if you want to protect your romantic relationship, maybe you need to be more careful with the impact your friends can have on your relationship. So that could be just an example of a counter-argument to one of Hooks' ideas. So perhaps here in this chapter as well, you can think of counter-argument to the ideas that she is writing about. Thank you, everybody, and I'll see you soon.